Yo, so something that I've recently come to realize that really has me in a place where there's a sense of urgency when I give you this message that Jaden Ivey is going to have to fight for his NBA life this upcoming season. I want to dive into that in this video. But before I do, this video is brought to you by Bridges and Stones Family and Relationship Care. If someone you know and care for is struggling with their mental health or relationship, go to bridgesinstones.com and contact them for your free consultation today. One brave act today can create a better tomorrow. I think if you've been following my channel, you understand how I feel about Jaden Ivey. He's an incredible talent who has some glaring flaws and yet is worth the investment of a franchise to really see him through to become as good as he can be. His type of athleticism, positional size, his ability to finish around the rim, his shooting ability, which hasn't been shown to its full potential, but relax, it's only been 2 seasons, is something that creates a unique pairing in an athlete. That combination of athleticism and shooting and finishing is the type of thing that you want from a starting off guard or starting guard for the next 10 to 15 years for your franchise. And a lot of teams are still searching for. And the Detroit Pistons has found him in Jaden Ivey. But the problem is that throughout this process, he has ran into the issue of an organization that has not had its focus, mainly from the top with Tom Gores. Not sticking with Dwayne Casey was probably the first mistake. Um, Not sticking with Troy Weaver and trusting him and getting out of his way and not bringing in Monty Williams was probably the next flaw from the front office or from the organizational head. And then now scrapping it all and starting all over, bringing in JB Bickerstaff and Trajan Langdon. I'm not mad at Bickerstaff or Langdon, but starting over and over and over again really hampers the development of your team. It really destroys the continuity, and that's something that I'm going to get into in another video about international play, what it is showing us, what is reminding us. The same thing that the Golden State Warriors realized, the same thing that the Miami Heat realized, the same thing that winning franchises like the San Antonio Spurs have realized, is that continuity and team chemistry and basketball IQ can far supersede talent. And so it's important to have that continuity and growth collectively that maximizes the potential of a team. Well, Jaden Ivey has been victim of an environment that has not been conducive to that, but it still doesn't change where it lands him today. And that's what I want to get into. Let me start off by saying where I'm getting a lot of this focus or this idea from has been the conversations that I've been hearing from the front office, from Tom Gores all the way through Trajan Langdon, all the way down through JB Bickerstaff, is that not one of them has mentioned Jaden Ivey as a part of the future. Not one of them has mentioned Jaden Ivey with amazing potential. It could be a potential future star. Despite being drafted high in the lottery, despite starting at point guard his rookie season, despite having immense talent. Remember, they took him over Benedict Mathurin, right? And other really good talents in his draft. They have not been talking about him. And you have to understand that this is not accidental. When these individuals speak, they understand that it is publicity, it is marketing, it is communicating to the fans and the organization the direction they are heading in. And Jaden Ivey has not been mentioned. He is likely not their primary focus. And I think that this is intentional because what they are recognizing is, one, with the salary cap, that hard cap, they have to look financially down the road and say, we're probably only going to really be able to commit to 2 guys when it comes to that max contract. And then the rest are going to have to be fill ins, which means that when you have incredible talents on this team, like a Cade Cunningham, who already got his max extension, like a Jalen Duren, like an Asar Thompson, and like a Jaden Ivey, you're going to have to start being really particular in who you're investing in. And generally, what you do is you invest in what is hardest to find again. And this is taking in not just your talent, your basketball IQ, your impact on the game, and the potential you have begin to show a fulfillment of. And this is the reality. Jaden Ivey is far more replaceable of all the talents on this team. It doesn't negate the talent that he does have, but you can find another shooting guard to have that level of production, whether or not they're that athletic. You can find that shooting, whether or not they have that type of positional size. You can find somebody to play that defense without those things as well. And so he's more replaceable. The second thing is he has struggled to be consistent the most. And this is a bit alarming because the other guys came out after their freshman seasons. Cade Cunningham came out after his freshman year. Jalen Duren came out after his freshman year. Asar Thompson came out with after what would have been his freshman year, right? These guys are all young, but Jaden Ivey came out after his sophomore year, having an extra year of seasoning, of fine tuning. And then now they're looking at him and saying, but why are you taking the longest to be consistent and develop? The fact that Monty Williams had to strong arm him into being a consistent defender, right? Maybe some of this was him thinking that he was going to be the number one option because he was the number one option the year prior with Cade Cunningham out. And he's thinking, I'm going to be a superstar. So maybe I don't have to invest in on this end of the floor in the same way. And then Monty Williams comes along and says, actually, yeah, you do. And then he's playing alongside Cade Cunningham and realize that, yeah, this guy is a little bit better. And so if they have to choose between the two of us, who is going to be that point of attack defender who needs to be fully dedicated, it's going to be me. And then he had to look at his shooting, which was inconsistent, and his gameplay on the court, turnovers and such, inconsistent. And I think he's had to get to this point where he realizes that, well, it's not that he's not talented. It's that he has not proven his value. And this is something that I did a video on, I want to say at the beginning of last season, where I said that Marcus Sasser may be more of the right fit for the future of this team than Jaden Ivey, because what he is going to cost is far less than what a Jaden Ivey would cost to retain to play a similar role and potentially have the same level of production. It's not about talent, it's about production and cost. And this is where you have to put on your general manager hat and your coach's hat. If I'm going to have to spend 20 plus million, 20 to 30 million a year to keep a Jaden Ivey to be able to put up 16 to 22 points a game and be the point of attack defender and do some secondary playmaking, but I can pay Marcus Sasser 14 to 18 million a year if he develops to do the same thing and get the same level of production, then why would I not do that? It's not to say Ivy doesn't have more talent in terms of athleticism and size, but it's to say that it's about what you can contribute and the value that it has for the team. Now, the last thing is that you have to understand, when you get a label in the league, when you get a outlook for who you are, once it's developed, it kind of sticks. Early on, there's a lot of flash, there's a lot of potential, there's a lot of flair, right? Everybody experiences this. Kentavious Caldwell Pope, who might actually be a great outlook for Jaden Ivey. Tim Hardaway Jr., right? These off guards that come into the draft and they're athletic and they can shoot, they have all this potential, and then you recognize that there's a difference between him and the guy who makes the All-Star team. There's a difference between him and the guy who's actually a bona fide NBA starter, right? Not everybody is going to be worth it, and you end up seeing guys like a Zach LaVine, and you're like, yeah, he is technically better than a Tim Hardaway Jr., but he costs about 20 million more. So who's more valuable? And Zach LaVine gets hurt all the time, right? Like this is where you start thinking about your roster construction. And so when somebody gets seen in a particular light, it begins to frame their value around the league, and it projects for their long-term earning potential and the role that they will play as their career continues. And so right now you have Jaden Ivey in a situation where he has everything to prove every single night. Right now he needs to be in a cave. He needs to be focused on his mindset. He needs to be so locked in that he realizes that every night he's going to be evaluated and judged. And it's not going to be about whether he's dunking on people. whether or not he's this amazing, future superstar. No, 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 no. They're going to watch him to see what can they trust out of him. What can they rely upon? What part of his game is actually something that they can say, you know what, I can build a franchise around. And this is why he's valuable. And I can talk to my GM. I can talk to my team president. I could talk to my team owner and say, you know what, he deserves this type of contract. They're going to want to see the turnovers down. They're going to want to see the nightly defense, point of attack defender, making the rotations, knowing where to be. These are all things within his control. They want to see him take consistent quality shots that he's knocking down, not step back threes, not shakes, not doing all this stuff that seems fancy, not trying to be a James Harden. That's not going to sell. What's going to sell is him showing that he can play a role at an elite level. And that means being reliable, consistent, and efficient. And if he can knock down his threes consistently by taking quality shots, he can turn down his turnovers, and he can improve his defense on a nightly basis, he will prove that he's a starting level off guard in this league simply because of the level of talent. But it's about what he can prove, and he hasn't proven it yet. And I think that's why you haven't heard him talked about in the same way that they talk about Cade Cunningham and Jalen Duren. Listen to the different podcasts that JB Bickerstaff has been on with Richard Jefferson, right, recently, and then his interview after he was hired, and you listen to Trajan Langdon, and you listen to Tom Gores. They don't talk about Jaden Ivey. Well, this is an opportunity for Jaden Ivey to give them something to talk about, but he's going to have to fight for it every single game, and I'm here for it. But as always, I want to know what you all think. If you agree, disagree, smash that like button for me, hit subscribe and the bell for notifications, and definitely drop this video in your group chats with your homies and get at me in the comment section, because you know I'm going to get back at you then. Peace.